Welcome to the Landscape Photography Vlogcast, hosted by myself, Tom Peters, aka the Photo Ninja, all the way up north, Paul Thompson Photography. And Struth, mate, it's Matt Bishop. We cover all things photography and chat to some of the best photography minds in the business. Put your feet up, your kettle on, and let's jump straight into this week's Vlogcast. Proudly sponsored by Case Filters. Capture with confidence. Right, welcome to the podcast, everyone. How's everyone been? Had a good Christmas?
Yeah, all good, thanks, buddy.
Merry Christmas, mate.
Merry
Still
Christmas.
looking skinny, Matt.
I'm still looking skinny.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
You couldn't have eaten enough.
I had a horrible Christmas, mate. Well, a horrible Christmas. We were locked indoors for Christmas, so yeah. The kids were in quarantine with this bloody COVID, and didn't have time to go out and do all the shopping. That's for sure.
Yeah. Not enough mince pies and that, by the look of it.
No, you can't get mince pies in Italy, mate. Just in case you didn't know.
What? That ain't a Christmas,
No.
man.
I'd leave that place.
Can't get
worth
scotched
staying in.
eggs. Can't get scotched eggs either. I mean, it's just
What's wrong with them?
they
No
don't
mince
have
pies,
they
no
don't even have
scotched eggs.
gravy on their meat, for God's sake. I mean, what's wrong with you?
God, I hope you've got a good supply of gravy granules in the
They've
cupboard.
got no idea what they're doing with food, the Italians. They're bloody hopeless, I tell you what.
There's some sort of jus, do they? I suppose jus and all that, don't they?
Yeah. So we have today Adam Handley on the podcast. Welcome, Adam.
Thanks. How's it going?
Great.
Yeah, all good, thanks,
it's
all good.
It's good to be here. Yeah.
So tell us about yourself, mate. Who
Um,
are you? Where you're from? Why do you photograph? People don't know you.
yeah. No, Adam I was actually born in England and moved to Wales when I was like 8 or 9. Grew up there, basically South Wales, just over the Severn Bridge in the Wye Valley there. Nice place. Kind of, grew up there. Played rugby for the town and got all into the sports there when I was younger. And then, just kind of as I grew up there, I suppose, I just got into school and always enjoyed going out hiking and everything, and ended up being something that I just would do on the weekends quite a bit, just to go out after school and hang out with the mates. We'd go for hikes up in the Beacons a bit and stuff like that. And then, I just kind of took it more of a creative route at school, and took photography, which was great at kind of AS and A level kind of thing, which was great. Got to use the dark room and really enjoyed that kind of process of things, which was great. Kind of getting my hands, when you're doing really enjoyed just processing the films and getting that kind of, seeing that kind of analog to something that I could see in front of my face was a real cool experience. Had a pretty good photography teacher there called Dr. Fredericks with big goofy teeth. Don't know if he ever will listen to this, but he was a pretty good lad. You could take the best picture you thought you'd ever taken, and you'd take it to you, and it was like I said, Dr. Fredericks, who was a real master of it, but he would get out this eye magnifier, and he would get your printout after you'd spent hours, sweating your hands in a bag, developing the film, getting it just right. And then he would be like, "It's not sharp." And you just be like, you just go, all right, fair enough.
And that was analog days.
What's that, mate?
And that was analog days.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was just back in, I had used my dad's old Olympus OM10. What was it?
Okay.
Yeah, OM10, one of the old school ones there. Mm-hmm. And that's basically I always enjoyed kind of creative stuff. I enjoyed doing working with my hands and D&T and drawing, technical drawing and stuff. And then photography was just kind of like, I was doing a few other courses that were what I wanted to do at uni and stuff. And then photography, I was like, well, I'll give it a whirl. And then after having the Olympus camera, my stepdad was like, "Oh, you should buy this new Canon, or an older Canon from one of my pals." And came with I bought it off him secondhand, and it was, I can't even remember the name of the Canon now. It was autofocus, but still film.
Right.
And it was great. At that point, I was just like, this is the next step, because it kind of felt I had autofocus and I had a better selection of lenses. Before with the Olympus, just had a 50mm, one of those 50. It wasn't. I don't think it was even very fast, to be honest, but had one of those, and then I had like the Canon came with a 28 to 70, and then I had this the old push pull Canon 70 to 200 f4. And I just after that that's what I used for my A levels and stuff, and then did all right, but it was more kind of focused on portraiture inside the studio and stuff. But I always just tried as much as I could to get out with the camera and take pictures of the home, kind of the Wye Valley, but had no idea what I was doing, really. You know, when you look back, you go, what the hell was that?
So how many years ago are we talking now, Adam?
Well, I'm 35 now, so it was a good, God, bloody hell, it's a long time ago now. It's like a good 20 years ago.
Okay.
50, oh no, it's less than that. So like 16 years ago or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was
digital had just started coming out.
Digital had just started. It just started, and like that's what was kind of cool. We would take pictures on our film, and then Dr. Fredericks, if he was sharp enough, would he would let us. He would scan it in, and then it was opening it in Photoshop for the first time, and it was like, wow, like this is mad. Like we could, and you know, as you do, you just go crazy over the top. You just change like.
Saturate the bugger out of everything.
Saturate the crap out of everything.
Turn everything up to 11.
Yeah, exactly. You're just like, just rock it. Just sliders up. Standard. Let's go for it. Have it nice. And then you like take it back to Fredo. That's his nickname. We used to play some good games with him in the dark room. I just tell you about. He's like, we used to have this game called Peg Fredo, and in the dark room he would go in there and he would like tell us, he'd be like, oh, here you are, and like you could almost see his teeth glowing in the red light, you know, it's just like standing out there. It's just like, and you had to get a peg from where it was on the line, and you had to peg it on his back of his blazer, or like anywhere more forward than hit, you got more points. So it wasn't a
JPEG, was it?
it was a JPEG.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
He can't help himself. Oh, he's heard that joke. It's going to be everything.
No, he's proud of that
one. No, sorry. You're going to have to excuse me tonight. I've come off a night shift. I haven't slept in 32 hours and I'm half drunk, so...
It's fine, mate. It's all good. No, we used to have this game. So you had this game Peg Fredo, which is pretty fun. And like, you know, just to go in there and really enjoyed that process of getting that all done. But then he would scan them all in, and then you'd have them on the computer for the first time, which was pretty cool. So I enjoyed that. And then kind of just fell away from photography for ages. It was weird. Like I took product design at uni and went and did that in Cardiff, which was really great. I had a great time. Met some good people and everything. And then, and then it was, that was like 4 years of my life where I just didn't, still had the camera, but I just didn't use it. And during that time, like the game was changing massively. Yeah. Because there was still obviously the autofocus, but like digital cameras were becoming a thing, and you know, suddenly I was just like I just didn't really care at the time. To be honest, I didn't care because I was at uni. I was having a lot of fun and still enjoyed going out hiking when we could, but it was more about being in the city at that point in my life for sure. Yeah. So, you know, 21, going out watching rugby, Wales play rugby and stuff in the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff. But then, just kind of after I got back after uni, it was more kind of like, I was like, I've got a lot more time on my hands, and kind of graduated in 2008, which is not a good time to graduate. It's just the world decline. So it wasn't really anything. Was like, all right, so my product design degree now, and all the design studios were like, you're having a laugh if you think we're taking anyone else on right now. There's no work out there. So that kind of ended that for me in terms of uni and getting a job and being a product designer. So I was like, right, well, I'll just travel. And so I saved up with my my pal. I started working in an off license selling fags and beer. Kind of wondering what the hell was going on with my life. And then I was like, okay, and you're just like, all right, okay, well, we'll do that. Saved up. And then we went to Croatia and, around Europe, and then Croatia, met my wife there. And then after that, really kind of got into photography after that. It was after I got back from traveling, I was like, I want to do something that's just kind of gives me a little bit more of a good feeling. I don't know. It just felt like there was quite a lot of space inside there to learn something that I had already thought I had something going on, and I enjoyed it. But it was so exciting getting back into photography at that point. I just remember. It was just like there was so much to learn because I kind of understood shutter speed, ISO, aperture, but with digital cameras, there was just so much more possibility, and I didn't have to F around in the dark room pegging Fredo, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
you should go and see how Fredo is, mate.
Well, that's the thing. I was hoping I could try and get hold of him and stuff, but the school, I don't know if he's still alive, to be honest. Fredo, if you're listening to this, mate, Fredo, Dr. Fredericks, actually, I should say. Fredo, if you're listening to this, get in contact, mate.
Yeah, bloody hell.
Yeah, going out to Fredo. So yeah, after that, what's that?
So that we'll get him on.
You should get Fredo on. You should get him on for a sharp or not sharp contest. He's like,
how many times I got pegged?
Yeah, exactly. Oh God. Oh, you haven't got an image of me pegging my photography teacher in the.
Yeah. I can't shake it out of my head now.
You need to do us a favour for us. At the end of the podcast, you need to try and find a photo of Frederick and his teeth and show us.
Yes,
and we'll put it on the Facebook group. I'm sure everyone wants to see Dr. Frederick's teeth.
Oh, if you, I really hope he's not listening to it now, though, because he had quite. It was more like
He's not. I can tell you, we've got my mother-in-law, my mum. My wife doesn't listen to it. Who else listens to it, guys? Oh well, Adam, you said you wanted to listen to it to find out whether we're worth it or not.
Yeah, I listened to it.
That's about it, mate. So yeah, don't worry about it. Fredo's not listening. You can say whatever you want to say.
No, so I mean, where was I? I can't remember what we were saying. Shit, this happens to me quite
somewhere
often,
around Peg and Fredo. That's where
that's Fredo. See, so you've gone through this journey, Adam. You were saying you had that break, and I think we've all, anyone who's photographed for quite a few years have had that big break, and it's good to have it because you're not in the right mindset at that stage of your life. You got your testosterone jumping all over the place, and you're thinking about something else that's more important in that period.
Yes,
and now, okay, you're 35.
35 years old. And like, I don't know, it's weird because Wales was a huge inspiration for me. Just growing up in Wales was amazing. I had the Wye Valley like literally on my doorstep, and I'd wake up every morning when I was staying there, and I wasn't too hungover or anything. I could literally walk out from my house and go down, shoot a river scene with some mist, or shoot some autumnal scene or like, I don't know, relatively quick access to the Brecon Beacons and stuff. So it was so inspiring at that point that I had like easy access and a new digital form that I could like really kind of just get my teeth into. And it became, I was completely and utterly obsessed. I just would go out all the time, whether it was I would go out, I actually would go out more often, just completely unplanned, and just be like, okay, think the weather's looking good, just literally look for a place that was local to mine, which would have water around it, and just be like, I'll go find whether it's a lake, whether it's the river, and I just got obsessed with misty scenes, to be honest, was my favourite thing. The Wye Valley, you've got to go there, boys, if you haven't already been there.
I used to be there. Let's go all the time because I used to live in Swindon.
Nice. Yeah, you can get there pretty quickly from there. Yeah.
Yeah, about 40 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great, isn't it? Like, so you get. Well, I really like Tinton was one of my favourite spots because it's got this big bend in the river, and then there's this willow tree that's kind of. It's actually on the English side of the river, because you're right on the border there, and the Wye River separates England and Wales. So, and the Wye Valley was just so inspiring because there was just trees there that with in a frosty morning where the mist would be burning off it, and you'd have this tree and then some kind of structure in the background or something like that, and then the kind of higher hills of the valley around you, and it was just such a kind of photography on the right day in that place is just really easy. It's mad. It's just the light's just right. There's mist everywhere. So I really, really enjoyed that, to be honest. And then after kind of getting a bit older, and then my wife she's my girlfriend at the time, moved back, and we were living in Bristol and stuff. And then I kind of started exploring a bit more of the UK because I had a car, and I'd drive down to Dorset or drive up to, I used to love just driving up to Snowdonia. It was actually one of my favourite spots. Just drive up in the old Ford Fiesta, get your nut down on the edge of the A4, cars whizzing past you, have a chill time for a bit, and then get your head down and wake up in the morning, surrounded by these really looming kind of dark, moody cliffs, and right by the base of Tree Fan was my favourite. I don't know if any of you guys have been up to that part of Snowdonia.
I haven't been to it, but I know of it.
Yeah, Tree Fan. I've got no bloody idea what you're talking about, mate. I'm sorry, but yeah,
mate, you should go there, guaranteed. It's one of my favourite spots. When I was in the UK, was if I had enough time, I'd drive up there on a Friday, sleep well, that's not obviously a great thing, sleeping in your Fiesta, but wake up in the morning, and then you could either choose to hike up Tree Fan on up the ridge there, or you could go the opposite way, and then you're just afforded these beautiful running rivers looking at Tree Fan with a Llyn in the valley there. And it's just at that point I was like, right, I'm going to start taking this really seriously now, because I was like, I really enjoyed just getting out there and enjoy. It's weird, I'm quite a social person, but when it comes to photography, I'd much prefer to be myself, and I enjoyed doing it. Just going doing that. I was like, but at the end of the weekend, I'm like, Matt, I was craving to get back, but I wouldn't want anyone else there at that point. It's kind of strange. I don't know why, but yeah. And that's sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just for anyone who doesn't know of you, Adam, just to go and check out, your profile on Facebook or Instagram. You can see what Adam's talking about here. If you have a look on his Instagram account, for example, there's a lot of these images. You've got a lot of misty shots, don't you? You can see that it's something you really like to capture, isn't it? Fog and mist.
Kind of obsessed with it.
Yeah. I must admit, looking through your imagery, that's one thing that attracted me to you to me is with your profile. The first time I saw it was that the light in your images is always incredible. You're very, very good at capturing light, and you've always have a very, very important light in all your scenes. There's no dull imagery in the images you capture. So
I think it just you can I had it the other day actually. I was just staying at my mum's new place here in Abergavenny, and she just lives near this canal, and I went out for a hike, or just a stroll with her and the dog, and I was just took my 70-200 in the Canon and was like, oh, we'll just go for a little stroll. Just amazing side light, and taking a picture of this tree, and the way it was just naturally contrasted against this kind of moody sky. It was like you had already done a heavy load of editing on it, but it's like straight out of the back of the camera. You're like, oh, that's that light that you're craving for, and sometimes
you've actually got to tone it down, otherwise it doesn't look real enough, and you're actually afraid that people will say, oh, that was over processed.
100%. I guarantee you, and I bring that raw file in because the raw file is already really vibrant. I reckon I'll if I went and edited that and didn't really think what I was doing, it would end up like a complete mess, because it would just be too much, you know. And like, so and then we carried on up going around the canal, and then we came back and I photographed the same scene with when the light was flat, and I had my camera out, like tripod actually out, and I, you know, tried to get I was like, okay, the light's gone a bit, I'll do a bit of a long exposure on it, and it just didn't. It just didn't have that same natural kind of depth to the picture, which I kind of like. Sometimes you just see those shots and you're just like, yeah, that's, you don't actually have to try too hard when the light's really good. And it's just that kind of like, okay, take the shots and make sure you don't blow out the highlights.
Yep.
And you can work with it from there, because modern cameras has got such a good low end that you can really bring up those, if you needed to bring up the shadows. And, you know, that's a debate whether it's a good thing to do that too much or not. But
I think with modern day cameras these days, the last 2 or 3 years, we all know we can bring up our shadows quite easily. At least by a good 3 or 4 stops, at least.
100%. You can bring them up so much now. But I think I think that's the thing, is that I've had taken some pictures where I'm like, I've worked really hard to get the photograph, and I'm like, this means so much to me. And then you get back and you edit the photograph, and because it meant so much, or there was a lot of effort that went in to get it, doesn't mean that it's a naturally good image. And then I'll find myself like working really, really hard with the image, and then I'm like, be feeling really relatively happy with it, and my brain would be like, yep, you worked hard, you've got the image at the end, and this is the result. And then maybe that's not those. Sometimes those are good images, whether it's a long exposure or whatever. But like majority of the time, they're not. They're the ones that are naturally don't require much work are usually the best ones. I don't know. Just
I found, you know, probably 5% of the time that sometimes the complexity that's involved in a scene with white balance and contrast and depth that some of these images, sometimes you have to work on them. You have to work on them for a long time. If you don't, you won't get those results out.
For sure.
There's so many of those images where bang, it's done, it's taken. But some of those scenes where you've got so much depth in it, like you said, there's so many elements that's combined into an image with regard to white balance, contrast, depth, different lighting. You have to work on them. Otherwise, you're just not going to get what you want to achieve.
100%. I totally agree. But like when you've got like if it's just if the light is just right, or the light's good in an image compared to you really really working an image, and you're like the composition on the image with less good light could actually be better. But the one with the natural light, I think we as humans, we just respond to that more romantically, in a way, more emotionally. You kind of like, you're like, oh, that's something like I would have seen with my own eyes and gone, oh, I like that. And I think that's hard to replicate with an image where the light isn't quite right. But don't get me wrong, I love going out and shooting waterfalls when the light's completely flat, and shooting trees and stuff when the light's all flat. But I just think sometimes it's you know when you've got a banger, you know, and you take a shot, and that's what's so enjoyable about photography, is you take that picture and you look on the back of your camera and you're like, we almost get it. You get that like awesome buzz. You're just like, this is awesome. Like really happy with the way that turned out. And that's a really great feeling. Just, you know, and if you can share that, go on and share that imagery with someone and then tie a story to it. I think that's how really good imagery and good photography is done, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But I think generally, rewinding it back up, Wales was the biggest inspiration for me, big time. It was the place where I was suddenly realised that there was mountains, there was valleys, there was trees, there was, you know, awesome waterfalls, beautiful waterfalls there, and, you know, in the Brecon Beacons and everything. And it just, at that point, I was like, great, I'm just going to do this forever. Yeah. No, it's really good.
Such
And
a good feeling, isn't it?
What's that?
I was to say, it's such a good feeling, isn't it, when you know you've done and you know you've got the shot.
Oh,
Nothing else like it, is there?
You get that feeling, you know, you're totally right, man, where you get the shot and then you may even get even more better shots that day. But when you know you've got that one shot in your bag, you can just all the pressure of your shoot is just melts away after that. It's just like, and you can, and then you're like, oh, you start seeing more, and you start thinking, oh, well, that worked out really well. Why don't I could bring this into this next scene? Or you just relax a lot, and I think that's that kind of moment, and I think that's why it's important to go out a lot, because if you don't go out a lot, you feel like you've got so much pressure to get a banger.
Yeah.
You
stress yourself out with it, and then
Good point.
totally. Get nothing. Yeah,
you do. You have these huge expectations that you need to go out and you need to actually produce content that day you're out there. And if you don't, you're not creative at that under that pressure.
No, you're not. Your brain's not loose. Your brain's not loose.
That's right.
And I think sometimes that's some of the most important thing, is just to be like, oh, I just was walking, and that actually, no matter, it's not an amazing view right now, but that would make a great picture. And it's that kind of like, you're relaxed and you're just scoping things out as you walk around. And I think sometimes that's just the nature of the beast. So I like just going out as much as possible. And don't get me wrong, like, I've spent a long time not going out. So like when I first moved to Canada, for example, I felt very conflicted about my photography, because there's a lot of things to learn about that place. And I felt like, it's the classic, like, your back garden, as in Wales or whatever, and the UK, and where you can go and get a certain shot. And I felt at that point I was like doing pretty well, posting shots, and was enjoying my photography there. And then I moved to Canada, and it was this overwhelmingly large task, which there's fantastic photography and photographers that have taken imagery there before me. And it was almost like too much pressure for me at the time. I just was like, oh, like, I don't know if I can do this place justice. So I just basically didn't take pictures for the first 6 months of me being there. I just kind of enjoyed Canada in a way. I just went out hiking and stuff, which was, and my wife would be like, you should really bring your camera out. And like, looking back on it, I probably should, because I saw some amazing scenes where I was like, oh, take a picture on the iPhone then, is it?
Sorry, hey, what did you just say? Your wife said you should bring your camera out with you.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong in that equation, eh?
What?
Michelle's pretty supportive of it.
No wonder you moved to the other side of the world, mate. Jeez.
Yeah, she's actually patience of a saint. Trying to set up a 2.5 minute long exposure.
Wow.
Pissing rain. She's still hanging out.
Dedication, that.
Mate. Yeah, no, she's fair. Hats off to her. She's definitely going to listen to this. She's definitely helped me out through a lot of those things. So she has been really patient, and I think that's honestly I've just felt very like there was a lot, like, as I was hinting at there, it's like there's a lot to learn about the way that Canada's been formed, and what's important about the landscape there, and what's a good thing to photograph in terms of kind of whether it's acceptable and stuff, because there's lots the First Nations there, it's their land, and you want to make sure that you're doing things in the right way. So I really don't try to like geotag. I just tag British Columbia, because I just think that I was wrestling with a lot of kind of, it's hard to describe, but I was wrestling with social issues in terms of how I thought my photography would be portrayed. So I felt very kind of conscious about posting it. So really, after that time, after 6, 7 months or so, I started getting into it, and I was starting to really kind of find spots that I had explored and I hadn't seen pictures of before. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I started getting that buzz back, that kind of like, because that's for me is one of my favorite things is it's all good, go shoot a place that's, legendary because it's got an amazing composition and it gets great weather and, it's one of the ones to have in your back pocket. But I find a spot that you haven't seen ever a picture of, or maybe someone has, but I kind of really enjoyed that. So I did a lot of hiking, and then I went to exploit those after that. Then, and so been really enjoying doing that. Just going and finding some of these huge trees, or some of the places that are actually close to Victoria, which is the biggest city really on Vancouver. Well, it is the biggest city on Vancouver Island. But there's places just dotted around which are really close to there if you just want to go off the beaten path a little bit, kind of thing. So, I've been, and so that's kind of led me to where I am now. Really, is just kind of enjoying my photography out there and feeling now that I can do things appropriately, which is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Because it's beautiful landscape over there. It really is.
Yeah, and it's like we were saying earlier on. It's
actually just trying to open a bottle of beer. Really,
that is me opening a can of Stella.
Stella. Well, I just
people don't know. Adam's just come home. He's back in the UK from Canada at the moment, so he's enjoying his local brew. So
the local brew of Stella Artois.
Stella Artois. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. Sorry, yeah. Wow. Stella Artois. Is it Belgium? Is it Stella Artois?
Yeah, it is Belgium. We call it Stella Actor Twat.
Yeah, that's the one. That's more likely, isn't it?
Just before we move into the next part of the discussion, Adam, we just want to announce something exciting about the podcast, guys. Paul, do you want to bring this up?
Yeah, so basically we've got a sponsor for the podcast, which is great news for us, and it's a partner that we're all currently working with as well, and that is Case Filters. Case Filters Global have kindly sponsored us to keep this podcast running. So a great thank you goes out to those guys.
Yeah, we're really, really happy about that. It's a great band. It's a great brand that we all endorse and we all use out on field.
I
great
use them
quality.
too.
You use Case Filters too, do you, mate?
Yeah. Oh, even better. We couldn't have asked for better, eh?
Yeah.
First guest on and he uses this.
That's the only reason why I actually invited Adam. He's a horrible photographer, but I just thought he uses Case Filters, so we'll get him on. It'd be a good time to get him on,
Exactly.
Official announcement of the podcast being sponsored.
You saw my behind the scenes on my stories, and you're like,
did.
That's it. I'm going for it.
I did.
Get him on. No,
actually, I had no idea, Adam, because mate, you don't advertise any of the stuff. Actually, the only thing I found out about you is you use a Canon camera, do you?
Yeah, I know. Don't look so disgusted.
Yeah. I didn't think people use Canon anymore.
I thought they were only good for doorstops.
Yeah. It is good for that. Yeah. No, I do. I do. Yeah. No, I do. I still use my. Well, I've had it for quite a few years now. Canon 5D Mark IV.
Right.
Which is, I know this is the thing. Like back in the day, I went from I had my first camera that, like I was saying, a digital camera that got me really inspired, and I was like, that took me so far. And then I asked one of my photographer pals which camera I should get, and she was a Nikon shooter, and she was like, you should get the D750. And I cheaped out a little bit, and because I already had some Canon lenses, I'd bought a Tokina 11-16, and I was like, well, because that worked on my my crop sensor Canon 550D, I think it is, and then I was like, okay, well, I'll just get a Canon 60 and just migrate some of the lenses over and zoom the 11-16 into 16mm and have soft ass corners. Brilliant. So I ended up shooting Canon, and I'm kind of on the fence now. It's just I don't know. It's a good camera. I like the way it feels. It's a bit heavy, but yeah,
Heavy's good.
Heavy's
Don't go
good.
mirrorless. Don't listen to these guys with their little tiny pieces of plastic cameras. You might as well just go and buy an iPhone.
Yeah, no, I like exactly. I like the feel of.
I think that's
I like the feel of
disgraceful.
that being
I think
heavy.
that's disgraceful. I'm not going to tolerate that,
I'm only joking. I have to justify the fact that I've got like about 70 kilos of camera gear in my bag.
Yeah, it's brutal, man. Like honestly, I did having taken the extra weight is hard. So I hiked with the wife. We went, and a couple of our really good friends from Vancouver Island. We luckily enough got tickets to go do the West Coast Trail last summer.
Oh yeah.
So it's pretty well renowned hike, and what is it? I don't know. It's like 85, almost 90 kilometers up the coast of the West Coast of Vancouver Island, from starting at Port Renfrew all the way up to Pachena Bay. And man, carrying all my hiking stuff, camping gear, food, and my Canon 5D, and my 16 to 35, my 70 to 200, and my 40 mil pancake, which weighs nothing, but anyway, but like still, that was a lot. And like I ended up with like it's a 48 pound backpack. And I remember saying before, I just couldn't afford a new camera. So I was like, yeah, this is going to be brutal. Everyone's like, just buy a new camera. And these days it's not just, you can't just buy a new camera, can you?
No,
you can't.
You got to change. You got to change everything.
Exactly.
It's like a massive investment.
It's a huge investment. I'm sure you lads are the same as me. It's like I'm going to research that for 4 months before I buy it. I'm going to read every single Google review. I'm going to watch every YouTube video on it, and then because it's dropping $4,000 at least.
And then you'll watch every YouTube video
Yeah.
for the next 4 months after buying it to make sure you made the
make
right
sure you
choice.
make sure you didn't just ruin yourself. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. So I mean, I would really like to. I would like to migrate. I just want something smaller, but full frame. And I like the idea of the new Nikons, because they've got some smaller lenses which are really nice. And don't get me wrong, I think the new Canon.
Yeah, they got the
lenses,
f4 lenses.
Yeah. I'm all about the f4 lenses, lads. You know, like my 70 to 200 is the 70 to 200 f4, the 16 to 35 is the f4L, and then I just shoot that 40 mm 2.8, which is great. And that's what I've had, because I didn't take any of my lenses over with me, really. I have loads more lenses in my bag, with like the Sigma 50 1.4, but it's so heavy. And like even just any of the fast glass, I was just like, nah. I'm going to take the light gear to Canada, and really, I haven't needed any other lenses. 16 to 35, a 40 mm, like gives you some depth with the 2.8, and then the 70 to 200 f4. Like maybe I could chuck in a teleconverter in there, but don't know. Like honestly, don't know if I need any much. I would like to change though, and because the Canon is beaten up, I've dropped it. I've scratched the crap out of it. The weather sealing's starting to go on it. That's primarily
Weather sealing. What's that?
Yeah. Do you boys know about that? Is it?
Not having Sony, mate. No.
Surely it's all right now, though.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Sonys don't tend to have much in the way of weatherproofing, but it handles it fine.
The early models, I think I heard that the early models were pretty bad.
Yeah,
but
pretty
I think
dodgy.
I think
the early ones were.
I think the new ones are pretty bang on, aren't they?
Yeah, I've got my R4 soaking.
Yeah.
It's been fine.
Yeah. No worries with that. Yeah.
I ain't had any trouble with mine, no.
And to be fair, the R2, which is what I shoot, I've put that through a right rainstorm and didn't even bat an eyelid.
I had an umbrella out on mine. We went to Scotland. I looked over him.
Yeah, he's got an umbrella over it.
Pulls like this, like getting absolutely pissed on.
Yeah, wiped off with a towel. It was fine.
That's all right, because that's what you want. You know, you just want your camera to be able to just go where you go. And there's nothing more frustrating than that. So I've broken a lot of cameras. I broke my Canon 60 on my honeymoon. You know, should be enjoying a nice chill time with the wife, watching the sunset in Antigua.
No.
60 down there trying to get, sunset with a long exposure wave scene. In the sand. And it's just a big wave came up and like out of nowhere off these rocks and just completely soaked the 60. And I was like, it's going to be okay. And then it's like, nah, it's like you just, as soon as you get that salt water in there and any of, that lower weather ceiling, it's brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, salt water is kind of was.
Yeah, these days, if you're an outdoor photographer, you got to have outdoor gear, don't you? There's no excuse.
No, you really need it. Like the 5D is good, but there's obviously other cameras with better qualities and stuff. But so I was actually in your parts when I realized how good the 5D's weather sealing was. I was in the Dolomites shooting. What's the one right at the top of the park where you've got the three cliffs? That's
Trecime di Lavaredo.
Yeah, Trecime di Lavaredo. And I was up there. That
sounded more Spanish than it did Italian, mate. By the way.
Well, I spent like a year in Spain, so that's if I do anything European, it just comes out Spanish.
There you go.
But yeah, like I was up there with the wife, and I was like, yeah, we need to go up there. It's like this is the spot. Like this is the spot, and I had so many views of what I was going to get. Great sunlight in the evening because they glow red, don't they, at the end of the night or the end of the sunset? Sorry, and it's just the light catches them, and I was like, I'm going to bag that shot. I get up there, and it's like you're obviously really high up in the Dolomites, and there's already, you must know, it's like the weather forecast just says thunderstorms all the time.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, that height, there always is. Yeah,
every day at that height, it just says thunderstorms. So you're like, well, if we go by the weather, we're never going to go out. So we went out there, and wife's like, it's getting a bit dark up here. I'm like, just wait. I reckon the sun's going to fall behind that cloud. Just wait. Let's stay here. I'm in the position. And then it's like, oh no, we need to get out of here. The wind's picking up. It's starting the thunder. And Rochelle, the thunder was coming and the hail started coming down. And it's quite sketchy, the area that we were, because the way back to the car park is like this big, never seen a scree like it. Huge scree. Of loose shale.
Yeah,
yeah. And I'm like taking pictures of this like epic light hitting it and everything, and I turn around, the wife's just completely gone, and I'm, when you've been in those moments where you just it's kicking off so much that you probably should turn back, but you're like, I'm just going to stay out here with a metal camera and a metal bits on my tripod amongst the lightning storm.
That's right.
I want to see what happens.
And just wait.
Just don't raise it above your head.
Yeah. So I had that place is epic though, man. Got to say,
I never forget a story I heard years ago from Ted Gore, don't you, Adam?
Ted Gore, yeah, really great. He doesn't post anymore, which is a shame.
That's because he doesn't photograph anymore, mate. That's probably why. Yeah,
really talented photographer.
Well, he was one of the let's say the first sort of photographers, who started using luminosity masks and things like that. For me, he was probably one of the reasons why I decided to sort of step up my game in digital photography probably about 6-7 years ago now because of his work. Brilliant photographer. He was up at the Trecime on a workshop, I believe.
Yeah.
Probably, around that time, 6-7 years ago. And apparently when he was up there was a storm coming in and there was lightning in the distance. And he said it was totally packed, full of people.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, everyone started running and left. He was right on top of the peak. And I don't know if you've been there, but there's like a little cave. Have you
there's
seen
a
that
cave.
Little tiny cave? Yeah.
I didn't make it because the storm came in too quick, but that cave that looks back at them, Yeah.
So he sort of sat back in there and just said, no, I'm not going anywhere, and stayed there. And hell broke loose.
Oh,
that guy, if you go on to his Instagram webpage, if you scroll down, you'll see it from a few years ago now. He's actually got Trecime di Lavaredo, those 3 peaks, in a storm, with freaking lightning strike going bang straight on top of the mountain.
Right on top of the mountain there.
Yeah.
And like
just an amazing moment.
Sometimes that's what it takes, isn't it? You know, just weather the storm. Just don't get too scared, and just say, you know what, stuff it. I'm just going to stay out.
Bring it on.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's what I was initially struggling with here in Canada, is the sketch of the wildlife.
Yeah.
Like,
I know exactly what you mean.
You know what you mean? You know what I mean, don't you? Yeah.
You hear a cracking branch behind you. You just shit yourself.
Well,
really?
Yeah, because my wife's from Vancouver Island, so she's kind of woken up here. She's been brought up here, so you kind of get used to it, I suppose. With this, like, oh yeah, there's bears and there's cougars around, but whatever, it's fine. And coming from the UK, where a fox is like the worst thing. Actually, you wouldn't want to corner a badger, but like, if you don't corner a badger, you're actually okay.
Where cornering a bear is a slightly different thing.
It certainly is. Yeah.
Oh mate, and that was for me a big thing, was getting over that sketch. Because it's a real sketch, but on the island there's only black bears here, supposedly. Yeah. Supposedly.
Do you find yourself walking around saying, "Hey bear, hey bear"?
I do, yeah.
That's what I do.
So to kind of like counteract that, because I wanted to be able to, like I did in Wales, just be like, stuff it, I'm just going to hike for ages or whatever. I'm going to get up and start hiking when it's dark. I'm terrible in the dark anyway. Even Wales, I would be like thinking someone's going to get me or something, just sketching out.
Someone's going to get me, yeah.
But like, and then I turn it into Canada, and then it's like, okay, the idea of going for a hike in the morning before the sunrise and hiking through the forest is actually terrifying. So I was like, I want to be able to take pictures here, and that's what it requires. So I had to kind of get over my fear a little bit. So the first summer I was there, I did and it was COVID. And I shouldn't have been traveling, but I drove up to the Strathcona and I did a few like overnight solo hikes just to kind of with my camera, just to get myself settled a little bit. And you read the signs and it's like, oh, there's a bear in the area, or you're in cougar country, and you're like, yeah, don't worry, I've read everything. I know exactly how to act when I see a bear or a cougar. And then when you do see a bear, it's hell of a lot different than what you expect it to be like. So when I was out in the Strathcona, I hiked all the way up to this place called Cream Lake, which is beautiful views, like this glacier-fed lake. So it's like bright turquoise lake. And at that point, I realized how big Vancouver Island was. So I kind of got to the crest of kind of a mountain as I'm looking down to the valley where there's Cream Lake, and I looked all the way south to my right-hand side, and it just peaks after peaks after peaks with snow-capped mountains. And I was like, had a real sudden appreciation of how vast Vancouver Island was in itself. And it's just like, I suddenly realized, I was like, well, COVID's a thing. Maybe I don't need to actually go off to Banff to find these iconic shots of, all the lakes there and everything, which I probably will do eventually. But I suddenly had that real moment of, mad inspired now to explore this place and see there's loads of more potential out there that hasn't been dug into. But it was that hike where I actually saw a bear, and I was like, I'd stayed at Cream Lake trying to wait for some late night light, and it didn't work. And I was like, okay, I'll bounce back down to my campsite, which I'd hiked. Is about that point. The campsite's about 1,000 meters up, and I was like, hike back down.
And you were on your own, were you, at this stage, were you?
Yeah, completely on my own. Like the sun's starting to set. Most of the day hikers had all gone back, and I was just waiting for the light, and then it didn't happen. So that moment when you're like, okay, fine, giving up on photography.
Did you have like a bayonet attached onto your tripod when you're walking through the?
I'm basically carrying my tripod with its fully cranked down, tight ball head, so I'm ready to smack something with my tripod head. It is scary.
What tripod have you got, mate?
It's one of those Siriu.
Sirei.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
So I knew you were going to correct me because I heard you talking about these ones on the podcast before. I can never say it right. How do you say it?
If they're going to spell it that way, it's their fault, isn't it, really?
It is. I always... Is it not Siriu? It's Sirie.
It's Surrey. Yeah,
Surrey.
the Chinese. Okay. It's a Chinese. I forget what word it is in Chinese, but yeah, Surrey. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't typically... Usually I actually rate that tripod. It's actually a really good tripod, and the ball head on it has been really, really good. It's light. There's probably better tripods, but I didn't want to... I was kind of skimping and saving at that point. That's never good with a tripod, but that seemed like I got a really good quality tripod with good carbon fiber and a good ball head for the price. So I was like, you know what? I'll go for it. One of the guys on Instagram actually recommended it to me. Hans Guraculus.
Oh yeah. Hans. Yeah.
I love Hans. His work is amazing, and I was just like, we've been following for each other for a long time. And I asked him, I was like, what are you using? And he's like, that was what I've bought. And I was like, well, sweet. If you're using it, then I'm down.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got into
does he actually test it on a bear though?
No, he doesn't test it on a bear.
No, he doesn't test it on bears. No.
No. So that maybe I should have asked him, or asked the Canadian, whoever, is this like good enough to knock a bear out?
See, I think you can only use a Gitso tripod at the end of the day, wouldn't you? To knock out a bear. No, you need that. Yeah.
You need something that's
reliable. Yeah.
It's at least 4 bears proof. Yeah. Yeah.
So I reckon if you hit a bear in the head with a Velbon tripod, they'd probably look at you and say, "You serious?"
Yeah, what's that?
Well, yeah, they would. And that's the scary thing about bears is that they are just an absolute beast. Mm-hmm. Whether it's a black bear, whether it's all bears are extremely tough. So that's the thing that cougars kind of scared me a little bit, but I don't know. A cougar is going to take your kid or you take your dog.
So just a quick interruption because we have a giveaway this week from Carl from Valoret Photography Gloves. If you remember, he was on last week. So his giveaway questions to win a pair of lovely gloves is: what game does Carl play early in the morning? Announcing the winners either on our social media channels as well as the next podcast as well. So stay tuned, guys, and good luck.
From what I read.
Oh, okay, that's nice.
Yeah,
they hunt you. They hunt you, don't they? They hunt you and track you, but they don't really. They very rarely attack you.
Yeah, I think they're more kind of scared of you hurting their eyes. Like like a big cat would be freaked out if it was if you like your home cat. If you it might like growl, like have a bad time with you, but if you go at that cat, it's going to run off. Whereas a bear, if it turns on you, there's not really much you can do. So that's kind of why the real sketch mode came from, was just bumping into a bear. So I did totally do that walking around Canada. Hey, Mr. Bear, hey bear, hey bear. Yeah, and I had walking down from that mountainside back to my tent. I actually did have a sighting. I was like, there was a family in front of me about maybe 150 yards, and they were scooting down the hill pretty quick. And
for fuck's sake.
I was kind of sketched out a little bit, so I was like hurrying down, and then I came around the corner and they had slowed up a bit, and then I came around the corner and made some noise as I was skidding round, and the dad of the family turned around and was like, "Bloody hell," in a Canadian accent, "Bloody hell, you scared the crap out of me." And I was like, "Oh, well, it's all good." And then I kind of felt a little bit awkward, so I was like, maybe I should just, because it's COVID, I was just like hang back a bit. And I hung back a bit, and then you get into a bit more photography, don't you? You're like, oh, the light's actually quite nice over this side of the mountain. And then I started taking some pictures of this like tree down in the lake, looking down on it from above. And I looked to my right hand side, and I was like, that's that whole tree / bush thing is just rustling. And then I realized, I was like, oh, it's a bear was behind the tree, like just not, obviously it didn't care about me, but it was just on its hind legs, so I could see this kind of like shape through the tree. And then I'd never really seen one so close up, and I realised how big those animals are. And yeah, it was quite a moment where I was like, well, you have gone hiking in the mountains in summer where there's loads of berries and stuff, and you are going to see them. And it was kind of maybe what I needed. I needed to kind of freak myself out and then realize that if you're being careful and you're stashing your food in the bear traps and stuff, then you actually you're not actually that in danger. So that was a good turning point for me actually in Canada, was that realization that it's like, you're not going to die every time you go out the door.
No.
God, it's crazy, isn't it?
Sasquatch instead of a black bear.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? To hear stories about what our photographic experiences are like. If I'm in Italy, I'm gonna my biggest risk is someone's gonna throw a leg of lamb at me for being on their property while I'm taking a photo. Some old lady's gonna be like, "You get off my property!" Boom, and throw some cheese at me or something. Yeah. And then you are fighting with bears. Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's the thing, I suppose, is if you are wherever you are, you've just got to kind of appreciate that if you are out doing landscape photography, then you can leave yourself in a pretty dangerous situation, whether it's a lightning storm up the mountains or whether it's you push yourself a little bit too far and you trying to get yourself in the river to take a nice long exposure shot. You just got to be careful out there, because it's there's a lot of people that do get themselves in trouble.
Oh yeah,
for sure, definitely.
It's like when I when I lived in Cornwall for about 8 years. I used to absolutely spastic on surfing, and I'd go before work, after work, all weekend, and the good spots were over rocks or off of a point in the morning or in the evening when no one's there. Quite often I'd be out there and I'd be like, you start getting that sort of dirtum. And I'm like, it's not Cape Town, I'm all right. But you still think you're going to get eaten by a shark or...
Well, yeah, they do get them out that way as well, don't they? I've heard reports.
They do, but it's generally a drunk fisherman just before summer. He hasn't caught nothing all winter and he needs a paycheck. So, but you still get that feeling,
Totally,
But if you're not out there when you need to be, you're not going to get the best wave or the best picture.
That's right.
You're totally right. And that's like when the weather is not great, that's actually when you want to be out taking pictures, and that's, I don't know. You just got to be careful. Like I've got myself in some pretty dangerous situations in Wales just taking pictures. I was addicted to trying to find this one waterfall in waterfall country there in Brecon Beacons. And I went there one time before by myself and I couldn't find it. So I felt really I was like, I've got to go back. I've got to go back and find it this time. So I researched it again, went back with the wife, and I pushed it too far. Like I left her on one side of the river and I had to cross the river like with my camera and my backpack. You're stepping over, like I didn't have wellies on, just shoes. You're like, all right, whatever, just get amongst the river. I had to do two river crossings to get to this certain point, and then the trail went up to the right hand side and I could see this river, and it's quite a steep ravine. Sorry, I could see the waterfall and I could see it at the end of this kind of ravine. I was like, okay, I'll take the footpath up. And I hiked up this, and I was about maybe 50 meters above where the water was, and it's quite really steep. It's like really, really steep, and it was autumn, so there was a lot of leaves on the trail. And I just got to this one point of the trail where my body wouldn't let me go any further. And I was like looking like I had looked down to my left-hand side, and it's like that. You as a doctor, you'll understand this. Isn't it like you get to a point where your ear and your eyes are all out of, it's like you've looked down and then there's something in your brain that's like just shuts you down. It stops you walking. Like I had the fear big time. And
It's called intelligence, isn't it? At the end of the day, just gone too far. There's no science behind it. You just stuffed up big time, mate.
Big time. And I was like, I had one foot in front of the other, and I was like, I knew if I took one more step, I would just slip out on these like really wet. Like the path, for example, wasn't a proper path. It was kind of an old path that had sloughed away. So there was a bit of a landslide and everything. And I just was stuck there and I even thought to myself, even if I try and turn around and walk back, I'm going to slip and fall to my death. And then I just thought of my wife that I'd left back, like 2 river crossings back, about a mile back down the river. And I was like, yeah, this is a pretty crap situation right now. And I literally was frozen trying to work out how I'm going to get out of this situation, because there wasn't any like trees around me to hold on to. I was just realized that I'd gone to the end of what I think my feet could help to like keep me up. So I turned around. Eventually I was like, I'm just going to walk, instead of turning round either way, I'm just going to step back, like put myself fully in reverse. And I just, as soon as I got back after about 10 feet, just sat down and was like, it's just not worth it sometimes, you know, like photography is great and the chasing it's great. But like sometimes you can really, really go a bit too far because of your passion to get that shot.
Yeah.
You know,
passion
definitely.
Overtakes the love for your wife.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What you were thinking about is how savage your missus is going to be when that car went back.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, your wife's on the other side of the river patting a fox.
Yeah, she's having a great time. Yeah, just the chase of the long exposures. You just get addicted to it, man. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I think you take after me because you seem to love water as much as I do. So any excuse to get water in a scene, and you're there.
Yeah.
Waterfalls are so dangerous because obviously with waterfalls, you get slippery rocks. I don't know how many times you guys have fallen over.
Oh, mate.
And the funny thing is, when you fall over in a waterfall or on a slippery rocks close to a waterfall, what do? You fall flat on your back, but you got your camera up in the air.
That last ditch, hold your camera up.
Isn't that sick? Sick. I mean, when you think about it, a photographer's natural instinct, it's actually embedded into our head. First thing, save the camera.
Save the camera.
Like, I don't care if I'm going to be paralyzed for life, but as long as I don't break my camera, and you stick it up in the air, it's like the first instinct. It's sickening, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. It's terrible. You're just like, it is exactly that. You're like, oh, your legs are gone, and just hold your camera up. Doesn't matter about you clipping your head on a jagged rock in the Brecon Beacons and no one's around. It's fine. Your camera's dry.
That's right.
It's like I'm looking at a picture of Englishman River Falls now on Instagram, and that's a prime example. If you take one wrong move, you plummet into an abyss of darkness that you don't even see the bottom of.
Oh, that bit is sketchy as well because it totally sucks you in through that deep ravine there. And there's a waterfall at the end. So, like, it's all waterfall. And it's hard to describe, but it's all waterfalls from that view. It's all waterfalls with a river flowing down a ridiculously steep ravine that's about maybe a meter wide. And when it rains really hard, there's so much water getting sucked down.
It sounds awesome.
It's amazing. It's a really cool spot, but it's like it's definitely dangerous.
You just can't see the bottom. You just there's a certain point of it just disappears and it just goes black.
So totally. Yeah. And I mean, this is the thing, like you got dangerous spots like that, but there's dangerous spots all over the UK as well. Like, you know,
for sure.
It's people get sucked. I think that I saw a really good account where it was like people taking pictures of photographers that have gone to the extra length to get the shot. And it's absolutely hilarious seeing the positions that photographers have gone in, put themselves in to get that shot. And you're like, how are you getting out of there, mate? What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, no, I've really, it's like fine balance between pushing it a little bit too far and then you've gone way too far. And now you're in the middle of nowhere and you haven't it's just a good idea to research everything about the place as much as you can before you go there.
For sure, definitely.
And check the weather, because like one of the wildest places I've actually been in the bad weather was down on the British coast there, it was not it's like North Dorset down there. It's just the way that the waves came in, you can get swept out. Like, I've never been to Iceland or anything, so I haven't really got anything to kind of liken that to, but when you're down in those parts of the UK, you get some pretty dangerous places to go shoot, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So what actually took you to Vancouver Island? What actually took you there?
My wife. We lived here in the UK for quite a bit, actually. She lived here for 3 or 4 years, and I'd lived already in Canada for a year. And we just were like, we always thought when we first met each other, we were always chatting, we're like, we're gonna move to Vancouver Island because it's beautiful out there. There's loads of space, good healthcare, good schools, and that was the thing. Like, I've got lots of family here, which is, it's hard being out there, and I'm sure you understand that as well. When you're away for a while, and it's niece and nephew, they're growing up and stuff. So there's that kind of aspect of it for me. But for us, it was the easy access to the outdoors and the quality of life that we could have out there. And me being into photography, I was like, yes, I want to move to Canada.
So that's why I live in Italy, because the wine's cheap.
The wine's cheap. Exactly.
You can get a bottle of wine for, £3. You can get yourself a bottle of wine that'll cost 20 anywhere else. So I'm happy every day. I just get stuck into the wine. No,
totally. Yeah. No, it's it's good. It is good, I think, in some way to live in you live in a completely foreign country where they don't speak English at all. And I mean, that comes with its own challenge. Do you speak
Australian though?
They speak Australian,
yeah, they speak Australian, though. Yeah. But it's definitely going from Canada to the UK. You do have your challenges with being far away from home, but culturally, it's not that different. I mean, that's one thing I found. I mean, I moved from Australia to the UK when I was quite young. I was about 22 at the time when that happened.
Yeah.
And for me, there was no big difference. The only difference is when I went to the UK, people didn't talk to you. Like when you walk on the street in Australia, you could be walking anywhere. Everyone's like, "G'day, mate. How are you? Yeah, good. Nice day. Lovely weather. What have you been up to?" And you go, "Who's like this bloke? What's he want to know what I'm up to?" And then you go over to the UK and everyone ignores you. And you're like, "Okay, well, that's the difference over here." But
they totally do.
Over here, everything's different. The only similar thing between Australia and Italy is they've got television. That's about it. Everything else was completely different, especially when I moved over here, because we didn't even really – internet was only just starting out, so there wasn't much access to technology, and, everything was Italian non-stop.
Yeah, if you say you've lived over there for quite a while then?
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, since 2003.
Blimey.
Yeah.
So do you speak Italian?
Bugger. Apparently, people answer me back, and I kind of understand what they say. And I do work in a hospital, and I must be doing something right because all the children are still alive. So
something good. He just swears a lot, and they get the hang of that pretty well.
Yeah, definitely. That's the only thing I understood when I moved to Cornwall was the swearing.
Yeah, you understand a whole different level of swearing when you move to Cornwall, don't you?
Yeah, you must have heard of Jeffro. The comedian. You've not heard of him?
Nah.
He talks like, have you seen Hot Fuzz?
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
The old dude with all the guns that just makes noises.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's how they talk. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, man, like
how is it? How do they talk? Go on, do an impersonation for us.
Yeah,
Tom. I want to hear it, mate.
Come on, Tom, I want to hear it.
I can't say. It's just all noises. It's all noises and slang and, like Celtic. They chuck the old bit of Celtic in there, and they talk about 3 different languages, like all in the same sentence, 1,000 mile an hour. And it's just like, what do you want about, mate? But yeah, you get used to it. You just pick up bits of word. You pick up words, I suppose, don't you? Well, you obviously know what it's like.
What's it like? Like dead horse tomato sauce, stuff like that, or? Huh?
No, it's like they say like Dunham and where you been to and all this.
Where you been to?
Where you been to? And,
it sounds like Welsh.
Yeah,
it sounds like.
Yeah, everything ends up in like Dunham. Where you been to? Dunham. And I'm like, what? What are you on
Dunham.
about?
Where's Dunham?
Yeah, what do you mean? Where have I been? Yeah.
I'll never forget when it would have been a good 20 years ago now. With a few friends of mine when we lived in London, we went to Dublin for the weekend. Thought we'll go to Temple Bar, and Temple Bar in Dublin, where the main sort of all the pubs
I've heard of it.
We'll go and spend a weekend there with a few friends and live it up for the weekend. And I remember because my wife was Mivy and she would only just started learning English. Basically, the poor girl, she learned English off me, so she
doesn't stand much of a chance, does she?
No, she doesn't. No.
Does she talk with an Australian accent?
No, she doesn't talk. She doesn't have an Australian accent. She's got this weird Italian sort of French. I don't know. It's very, very weird. But everything she says is she constructs everything in Australian phrases.
Oh yeah.
Like I remember when she worked in Australia for a few years, and like the CEO of the company said to her one day, "How are you?" And she said, "Oh, I'm buggered." She actually didn't know how to tell the CEO that she was tired, or she was exhausted, or she had a hard weekend, or I'm buggered.
She learned from the best, mate. She learned from the best.
Oh god.
Oh,
so anyway, we go to Dublin for the weekend. I remember these blokes in this pub in Dublin. They're all the Irish guys in there, and they were all drunk off their face. And we walked out of the pub, and these couple of blokes come up to me, and Barbara said, "What did they say?" And I said, "I've got no bloody idea. I didn't understand one word." And I thought this is the same English language, So for me, to end of the day, Italian was very easy to learn. It just was another language.
Yeah, that's great. That's good, man. Because I don't know about any of you other guys here, but I do not have the head for languages at all.
No, me neither.
Yeah, being born in England. And
I struggle with English.
Yeah, exactly. yeah. But you can speak if you just go a little bit further north. You can just be Scottish as well, can't you? As well.
Yeah, well, I'm half Scottish anyway, so
same here. I'm half Scottish as well.
Yeah,
I can see why you boys want to go there all the time.
Yeah.
My dad was a Scot.
Jeez,
nice.
Yeah.
My grandma was from Scotland. Does that make me Scottish?
Yeah, somewhere along the line. Quarter Scottish, probably.
Yeah. No, it's weird because when I moved to Wales when I was like 8, I'm dyslexic as well, so I was already struggling to spell and read English, and then get to Wales, and I'm like,
it's the worst combination ever, isn't it?
What the bloody? I thought I was getting it,
Yeah, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, how different is Welsh and English?
Oh, have you not seen the road signs?
No.
Holy shit!
They run out of metal making them signs, mate.
I keep telling you guys we're going to go to Snowdonia.
Mate, you've got to go to Snowdonia. Mate, honestly, Welsh looks like Elvish written. It looks like Elvish written. And
you've
in
never
North
seen
Wales,
bigger road signs in your life.
Yeah, no, it's like it's amazing. But I grew up in Wye Valley, which is some parts for Welsh and whatever. So I grew up in a place called Llandogo.
I'm sorry,
Llandogo, double L at the beginning.
Llandogo.
Yeah, so you say with a double L, it's clan. Everyone's going to murder me for saying that now. It's not the proper pronunciation. But honestly, you're trying to learn how to, because it was compulsory in school, trying to learn how to write Welsh after I was already struggling with English. That was a hell of a challenge.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I went up to stay with Dave Griff a couple of times in Snowdonia on Llangwin. Is it Llangwin Island? That's the same thing. It's a double L, isn't it?
Yeah,
right at the top. And sometimes he'd rattle these names off to me, and I'm like, no, He's just showing off, this bloke. He just made that up.
Yeah, that's not right. That's not
No.
right. No, it's
No.
it's nuts. And like, you know, Wales is a pretty like. There was part of Snowdonia that really kind of captured me. Was I kind of got wind that Tolkien, who wrote the Lord of the Rings, was inspired.
Yeah.
Mordor was inspired by North Snowdonia in general. And I was just like, and then so there's so much like old Celtic history that I think's actually been lost throughout the years up there.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing, you know, whether you believe it or not, you know, stories of Merlin, and you know, there's a reason why we've got dragons on our flag and stuff. And you know, not that I believe in dragons, but there's parts of Wales and a lot of Wales is full of this kind of like folklore and stuff. And I just found that really, really interesting as well. Up there is a kind of, because you kind of do get that feeling like if when you're up there, these kind of jagged kind of barren, misty, rainy, snowy landscape is really quite amazing.
This real medieval type of presence about everything.
It's more like Scotland, isn't it? Than
it is.
than the lake. The lakes is very sort of lush and green and easy on the eye, where Snowdon's a bit more rugged, I find.
Totally. Snowdon's like a little bit more jagged, whereas the lakes is kind of big bluffs that pop up, and then you have more of a plateau, and then it goes up again. Whereas Wales is a lot of slate and angles and this kind of like.
I'm loving it.
It's really cool. It's a good spot. Like, and I would highly recommend anyone go for. Don't do Snowdon. Go explore the other parts of Snowdonia. There's so many amazing spots there. Like this place, you might have seen pictures of it on Instagram or social media on the internet. The place called Fairy Glen.
Yeah.
Have you seen pictures of this place?
Yeah.
And like, I never managed to get the photograph that I wanted. Is the right time of year you can get the sun rising up the glen, like up that little spot there, and it's a few people I see have really nailed that shot, and it's like misty, and there's these trees that are over it, and the water's coming towards you. This beautiful. It always has bubbles in the water, so whether you want to shoot it slow exposure or like a long exposure, or if you want to shoot it fast, you can get a totally different look to your shot. But it's just got these, like, and in autumn as well, it's got these beautiful colours above it and everything. It's amazing spots. And there's so many people. I mean, I heard when I was reading that through lockdown that it was like the busiest place in the UK, Mount Snowdon, because so many people were like,
it was ridiculous.
Who were just parking up on the side of the road where they shouldn't, and just like, you know, on both sides. Which is mad. But I can totally understand why people wanted to get out. Like, I did the same thing, but it's just less people where I was. But there's so many places to Wales which I feel are just really untouched. Like, even if you go to Pembrokeshire as well, like all the coastline there, you get this like really great experience of the Atlantic swell crashing up against these huge cliffs. Incredibly like photogenic, but you don't see so many photographs of this place, and it's. I always wondered that why not? And
I always find Pembrokeshire very similar to looking to Cornwall.
It is,
We used to go there sometimes if we fancied. When we was really young, if you fancied a mix-up, like, instead of going to Cornwall, we'd go there. And I always found it very similar to Cornwall, just wetter.
You get these like the rolling hills aspect of it, you know, a little bit monotonous in terms of photographic opportunities. But then when you get to the coast, like, you've got these huge cliffs, and they're in the right conditions. You got this huge, like, massive waves crashing up against them and stuff. And there's so many kind of opportunities there. Whether you've got to be pretty careful, but you know, the cliffs there and high winds can definitely get pretty sketchy, but it's pretty epic. Like, it kind of like parts of it remind me of like what you see. I've never been to the spot, but like the place in Ireland, is it the Cliffs of Moher or something like that? It reminds me of that, where you get these like long expanse of 100-foot cliffs with these huge waves crashing up against it, with these kind of bright green fields off it and stuff. So it's a really cool spot. Like I so lucky to have had the opportunity to like explore that place and just kind of have it as a, because it's kind of small, isn't it? Well, so you can bop around.
Yeah, it's tiny. Yeah.
Yeah, you can drive from my place where I lived to North Snowdonia in like 2 hours, just under, if you put your foot down. And that
sounds
great.
like a plan. Definitely. When lockdown is when COVID is finally over, or we're allowed to travel again freely, everyone will go back to the pubs.
Yeah,
and at that stage, that's when we will go out and photograph while no one else is out there.
And you lads are planning a bit of a trip to go around or something like that as well.
Wow, we actually planned Tuscany for January, but that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. The cases are just too high at the moment. It's not worth it. It's not worth the risk, is it really?
We've got two or three trips planned, but I think they're all going to have to go on the back burner, aren't they? For the minute?
Look, let's hope sort of into the new year, into early spring. We're quite keen to get out on field together and get some stuff done. It'd be great to be able to the fact that I'm in Italy too, and these guys are over in the UK, to actually exchange experiences too for workshops in the future and things. We've got
definitely.
It's what's on our doorstep on both sides of Europe is really, really good.
It's
places like where you talk about, in Wales, I can experience in 2 hours drive from Rome, and no one knows about these places. So,
and I think that's what it's all like. I think that's what it's about, because we all love going and taking pictures of a place that everyone's seen before, because before you get there, you know what you're going to expect in a certain sense, and you also know that, like, if you geotag it, it's a good shot of it, it's going to blow up on social media, because it's a shot that lots of people that aren't photographers go there and they have a connection with, because they've been there because it's a tourist attraction. But I don't know, there's certain pride in and enjoyment and excitement in finding those places which haven't been shot before, and then people are like, where is that? Definitely. Where is that? And you're like, should I tell them?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't blow up as much for you, but I think there's more self-satisfaction in taking them.
Yeah,
I think it's all about the learning process too. At the end of the day, I mean, I always talk to it. It's photography is a lot like music. I can remember when I first picked up a guitar when I was a young teenager. And I started learning Jimi Hendrix riffs, didn't I? Yeah. And then from there, I started writing my own music. And I think photography is the same thing.
Definitely.
You start as a musician, and then you realise you're crap at music and you become a photographer. No, just joking. You'd be surprised how many photographers were musicians, by the way.
I know, there's loads of us. There's loads of us.
Have you not tried getting your guitar out on the podcast here and giving it all to the listeners?
No. There's 7 people that listen to it, mate. I don't want to lose all of them. No,
I've already had to tolerate his bad jokes, for God's sake. I mean, don't make it worse.
Mate, I entertain myself. That's the most important thing. If no one listens to us, who cares? As long as I entertain myself.
That's all that matters, really.
No, seriously. I mean, when we see these iconic places, obviously, if we're in that learning phase of photography, we use that as something to try and copy. We see a photo of Trecime, like you said, we see Ted Gore take a photo of Trecime. So what do? We go there and we want to take it like he did, because we're learning and we want to be good like he is. But once you've passed that learning process and you're more independent in your creativity and your photography craft, you then try and create something for yourself. And that's the stage when you try to start looking for locations on your own and new concepts.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, is like I've never done, and I probably should have back in the day, but I've never been on a workshop, and I think you would benefit a lot from going on a workshop in hindsight, because I've made so many mistakes, and I still make mistakes today. I was like, just taking pictures of the wife out in Abergavenny here, and it was actually really good conditions. It was found these beautiful old beech trees, like really, really old. After by the side of this clear cut, and I actually ended up getting some pretty good light, but I just was like trying to rush it, and then I looked back and I'd forgotten that I had had my ISO was at like 1600, and I just didn't even need it. I didn't even need it to be, and I was just it's weird. You just make those mistakes, and it's I think learning from someone at whether you've got at that point where you've been really inspired and you've got so much energy and you want to you actually at that point your photography could go in any direction you want it to, but you've got that fire in you.
Yeah, definitely.
Going to see have a workshop at that point really would hone you, and would save you hours of misses, because that's what we're all trying to limit, is missing the shot. Because there's nothing more annoying than going back and then be like, oh, I thought I bagged it, looks good on the back of the camera, and then you're like, shit, this is a grainy mush, or this is actually it wasn't in focus and I thought it was because I didn't take my time. And I think that's what you would learn from going out with someone that would teach you that kind of calm in the madness moment.
And helping you see too, because sometimes we think, as artistic as we might be and how passionate we are about something like photography, in the early stages, we don't realise that someone can actually help us see what we need to see the frame. And sometimes that needs to be taught, unfortunately. I mean, not unfortunately, but I mean, it's. I don't know. You're talking about when you first started, Adam, in photography. I mean, when I picked up a camera 20 years ago, it wasn't natural for me. I knew I loved it the second I picked up a camera, but it wasn't natural. And I think it's very rare that the photography is that natural. I think it has to be taught on some level. Especially, being able to say, hey, this is how you frame. This is what the rule of thirds are. You don't have to always respect it, but use it. There's many aspects, and Tom has been talking about this on a recent podcast when he does his workshops about helping people trying to see
the shot and feel
it, creative and feel it most of all, to feel it.
Yeah. I'm a real big believer of feeling it. You really have to. You have to really just be open to kind of experience it at that point, and whether especially if you're flustering around with your gear, you're not in the zone, and maybe the direction, whether it's a technical direction or it's allowing people to relax, is quite an important aspect of photography for me. It's huge. Like you've all had it where you go hiking, you're in an amazing location and you've got great light, but you're with 12 friends and they're watching you take a photograph, and guaranteed, like, I don't know, there might be some other people that can get a good photograph in that situation, but I definitely can't. I just I don't feel relaxed, and I think that's why I don't know how big your groups are. How big are the groups do you take when you do a kind of workshop? So
I normally focus on one-to-ones normally,
and that's a nice mix. And I think having that kind of one-to-one tuition is really good, because you will have obviously undivided attention, but also you won't feel too competitive in a way. And photography is incredibly competitive, isn't it? Let's be honest. It's like you take a picture of one place and someone posts a picture, or you see a picture elsewhere and you think, God, I thought mine was good. Now I've got to go back out there. And that's not a bad thing, don't get me wrong. That's a really good thing, is to get back out there and try and do something different. But it's kind of daunting for people learning photography. So I would recommend, definitely, in hindsight, I wish I had gone on a few more kind of tours or trips with people, and maybe it just wasn't as much of a thing when I was kind of getting into digital photography, and I think it is now, which is really good. I'm a big fan.
I think I don't know about you, Adam, but was it more because you started photography very early on? For you, it was more, I don't know, not ignorance as much, but you kind of thought you knew what you were doing, and you thought that whatever else was doing was just something. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think
you thought I know what f-stop is. I know what ISO is. Come on, I used a film camera. I know how to use these digital cameras, and you kind of just went struggled on yourself, you know.
Yeah,
and
totally.
You didn't realise that there was someone out there who's doing it as a full-time job who could teach you so much, you know, within a few days that would probably take you a year to learn.
It's exactly that, Matt. I just thought I could do it, and I'm just going to, like you said, struggle on. I am going to struggle on. But in some way, there is massive reward in just getting out there and making those mistakes, because I think no matter how much if you do go on the workshops and everything, you will learn a lot and you'll save some time. But there's also the real just sheer enjoyment of photography and being out there kind of by yourself, which is part of why I think I love photography, is that those moments where I'm like, I'm really enjoyed that. And I've now, you're missioning it back in the dark, or it's starting to rain, and you're like, oh yeah, that was actually something that kind of gave me, or gave my week, or gave my month some form of kind of backbone or meaning in a way. I don't know. It's kind of that search for kind of the adventure. Is photography and adventure go so well, you know, hand in hand, really. And like
that's what we do.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. Yeah, it's that kind of like you're kind of like a artistic adrenaline junkie, aren't you? You know, when you're a photographer.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It's a weird concept, because you're like, you know, I used to skateboard, so I used to always enjoy that kind of like weird, you know, I shouldn't be doing this, I'm kind of scared. And sometimes taking photos scares the crap out of you. You know, like you're hiking down to like Squid Ira in Brecon Beacon, so I just go there like religiously. I was obsessed with that place because I was trying to get this shot where the sun was coming up from behind it, and it would light up the trees, and then it would light up these crepuscular rays through the mist, and then I would be like, get a shot with the water flow in front of me, and I was like, that's the shot. I never bagged it. But like there was moments where I went down there, it was dark, and the sound of the waterfall was like terrifying. It was pumping, you know, and you're like, I've now got to get to the spot I want to be in by going behind the waterfall in almost pitch black. You're already soaked, and then, you know, you think, what am I doing here? Like, why have I come here? And I'm kind of scared. and then sometimes in those moments is when you get that wicked shot, where it's like
taking a chance.
You've kind of collected all that fear or kind of feeling into a frame, and it portrays nicely, and you're like, oh, that's weird. Like because of the darkness, or because of the way it was making me feel, I chose to put a slightly jagged rock in that leading foreground that then kind of gives it a bit of an edge, and it's you know, it's got a bit of mysticism, and you're like, oh, I kind of like that. And then once you found that, you search it out more and more, that kind of scaring yourself.
Yeah, that's sorry, mate, you go.
No, Tom, go, mate.
I was going to say, that's kind of what Matt said about earlier. It's that feeling comes through in the shot. The personality, you know, it's all there. Like, it's almost like if an image that you've portrayed that sort of journey shows in the image, and the person who's looking at the image can almost feel with that journey.
Yeah,
you know,
and in the post production too, definitely. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
You always have your own stamp on it anyway.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to go back to the same spot quite a bit. Like if you find a spot that you think you really like, go back to it. If you've got a vision of what you think it could be, you just think about look on the various apps and work out where that light's going to be hitting it to get that shot. And if you don't get it one time, just go back. You might bag a cool shot when the shot that you're actually aiming for didn't work out, and you just go back and go back. And I think that's one of the big problems with social media is the current state is that you're kind of almost expected to get bangers every time, which puts a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
You know, and it's incredibly rewarding, whether it's just being outside and enjoying the fresh air or getting a good shot or leaving your camera battery at home and then you've hiked like 4 miles in and then you realize there's no battery in your camera.
Yeah. Done that before.
Yeah.
Really? That's never happened to me.
That is the worst, man. That or a memory card. Like you can forget a lens and make it work by, you know, doing a panoramic or something or doing something else or making it work, but leaving your memory card or your battery is just brutal.
Yeah. Or you find your memory card's full and it's full of stuff that you haven't managed to get rid of yet.
Yeah. And then you're choosing between deleting stuff you know is good or something that might be good.
Even be better.
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks, man. No, that's a bad one.
Definitely
Like,
it does.
oh, mate. Yeah. No, it's a really good hobby we've all chosen, and whether you take it to a professional level or not, it's something good. It's good for the soul.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it is for sure. Definitely.
Where do you see photography going, Adam, in the future with you?
It's a lot to do. I'm really busy a lot of the time doing up my house in Victoria, getting it livable so we can actually live in there. You know, doing a lot of YouTube, learning how to be a plumber and learning how to be a tiler and all that. So life's quite busy, but I would like to do some form of tuition, whether it's at college or whether it's kind of actually out in the field. I'm not 100% sure. I would like to. I don't think I actually have the technical skills to be a photography teacher these days, though. Like in the classroom, because
In a classroom.
Oh, in a classroom, yeah. So you definitely don't need that outside.
Your teeth are too straight. Your teeth are too straight, mate. Are they?
Yeah, to be honest, too straight. Exactly. not Frodo, mate.
The problem is for me, I think, is there's already so many people that can teach you the technical side of it, and there's not enough emphasis on the actual seeing the shot side of it out in the field. I think that's probably where the most value is.
Yeah, but I mean, if you can get both, it's pretty good though. There's a lot of guys out there that do workshops. I've had direct feedback from other clients of mine who have been out in workshops and they've actually asked photographers, you know, how do you set up your camera? How do you do this? And their answer is basically, I'm an artist, not a photographer.
Yeah. And you're like, okay.
Answers like that. All the opposite way around, you know, don't know how to use a camera, but they're not creative in any way. So
so having a bit of both, I guess.
Having a bit of both certainly does. Yeah.
I just think there's my technical experience in terms of Photoshop is really limited, to be honest. Like I don't use luminosity masks.
You don't?
Nah. I've never used one.
That's surprising. Looking at your profile, mate.
Yeah, I know it's weird. I don't use it. So I just
That is surprising.
What's your workflow? What's your workflow?
Canon straight into so just shoot RAW, and then just literally bring it straight into Lightroom, and just edit from there. In
Lightroom.
So I edit in Lightroom. If I do use Photoshop for a few things, particularly. So if I want to do for increasing my depth of field. So if I want to get my foreground sharp and my background sharp, I'll layer it up and then take that apart and then merge it all together and stuff like that. But typically, I just pretty much only edit in Lightroom. Really, is basically the way I edit. I don't even no presets. Just try and make it work like that. This is the thing, is like I've been so there's been so much going on, like moving to Canada and stuff, and it's just been so busy. I just really haven't had much time to sit down and learn. And I think it does take that time. You need to dedicate hours to it, and I've just been so busy, and I don't know, I've just been so pretty much that, and then I just export it for. I always export 2 shots, so one for my prints if I'm going to make a print of it, and then export one for online, and then I just have it like that really. So cool. I mean, there's so much to learn, and this is what's amazing about photography, isn't it? You can really go so far into understanding how to do one form of photography if you know, understanding how you want to shoot, and then there's just you could spend just the amount of time that you spent shooting and learning how to do post-production.
Definitely.
So I don't really have much of an in-depth workflow, to be honest. It's pretty much just import my photograph and see how I feel about it. A lot of the time I actually don't like to edit the pictures I've just taken. I'll sit on them for like years almost and kind of wait for it to, if I edit a picture straight after I've taken it, I'm kind of a little bit over a bit too excited about editing it, and I don't get the shot that I kind of wanted out of it, you know. So,
yeah. Oh, that'd be nice, wouldn't it, Paul? Matt, just not have to edit an image straight away.
Yeah, tell me about it.
I usually sit on things for a couple of years before I look at them anyway, so...
I've only got a week.
No chance for that.
I'm a week ahead, that's it, mate.
Barely a week with the videos.
Oh, when I put out a YouTube video, when it comes out, they're like, doesn't he have grey hair now? What happened? What's he putting that for? What? Spring, isn't it? You know, like winter, 2000 and, you know... God. Mate... Adam, I mean, looking over your profile, mate, I just encourage people that are listening just to have a look. Obviously, in Instagram, we can't appreciate images for what they really are, but that's what we have at our disposal. Unless you've got a website that people can head on over to, by any chance.
That's another aspect. I've just been so lax with any making my own website or anything as well. I should really push the envelope a little bit more, but I just kind of. I don't know, just like taking photographs and share. Instagram's obviously not the best way to share it, I suppose. It's just been a hectic few years getting myself over here and, you know, stuff like that. But no, basically on Instagram is where I'm at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, cool. If you want, I've got a 20% discount on Squarespace at the moment, mate. I'll hand it over to you if you want.
Yeah, send it over.
For $50, I'll give it to you 20% off.
Yeah, that's sweet. Yeah, I'll take that actually. Because that is supposed, you know, I've never actually tried. Like I said, I haven't ever made my own website really, but that's one of the better ones to do, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Squarespace is a piss. Yeah.
It's really nice to use.
Plug and play. Just make sure your pictures are the right kind of sized correctly, and you're good to go, kind of thing.
Well, it's just not just easy to use. It's everything's in there. Anything you want to do is possible in there. You know, it's incredible.
Yeah. No, like to make it known that we're not sponsored by Squarespace in any way.
No.
However, if they'd like to get in touch, we're more than welcome.
Yeah. No, it's you know what I would like to say to you guys as well is that when I was listening to your podcast and everything, so in my kitchen painting, decorating, I was like, I was chucking along. I was like, this is really good, and it's important. I think that you guys have a kind of this kind of atmosphere of your podcast, because it kind of creates that community of, I think, photography that is slightly been eroded over the years, slightly, because of the rise of it. Yeah, no, I think it's really important, and you guys are doing a good thing. So I think really appreciate being part of it. So
I appreciate that, mate.
No, it was great to have you on, mate.
I appreciate you coming on. Yeah, we do. Yeah, and you seem like a real chilled, sort of down to earth, you know, laid back sort of guy. So you fit in just right, mate.
Yeah, no, that's great. And like, honestly, like, obviously COVID and whatever, but you guys, if you hit Vancouver Island, just hit me up. We'll go out for a stomp. I'll show you a few spots that hopefully haven't been obliterated by that point. And
for sure. Love to.
No, it's really important. Having a community is great, and you know,
it is.
That's kind of what we're all kind of looking for, really, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Definitely.
And to be honest with you, mate, as well, if you are over, sorry to steal the show, but if you are over, obviously in the Bracken Beacons, then just let me know because I'm only in Marlborough way. So.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. It's like I would love to do that, man. Like, we're just on the full sketch vibe. We don't want to I don't want to catch COVID from you, mate.
Unclean.
But really, photography in terms of outdoor activities is actually one of the safer things you can do with people, isn't it? During COVID,
it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Unless you see someone with like a really nice new camera and you can't resist touching it, then it's
that's what happens to me when I go out in the field.
Yeah, I'll convert you to Sony, mate. Don't worry about that.
Sorry, what was that?
I'll convert him to Sony. You don't want that bloody prehistoric Pentax rubbish.
No, you got to learn to use crank handles and all sorts of Pentax.
I always get touched when I'm out on field. Can I check out your camera? I'm actually not joking. I'm telling you the truth. Everyone wants to touch my camera when they see me out on field.
Look at the size of that.
Yeah.
How heavy is that then?
And why does he carry that generator around with him everywhere? Charge it up.
I don't know. It's because people actually think they are real. It's a Pentax. It's actually people sometimes they think it's I don't know, like no one uses them or something like that.
Yeah.
It's actually really strangely, I've found out there was a census done in Japan recently. The most popular camera brand in Japan is actually Pentax.
Right, interesting.
Yeah.
The market over for Pentax in Japan is huge.
Right.
It's the marketing everywhere else in the rest of the world, obviously, that influences photographers to go your Nikon, Canon, Fuji, Sony.
Yeah.
I bet you hate Jared Polin then.
Who?
Frono's photo.
Yeah.
.com.
He always rinses Pentax. He's like always dropping it, man.
He always, yeah. You must see him. Big afro dude on YouTube.
No, I
You
don't.
must have seen him.
What's he do?
We'll send you the link.
Send me the link.
Just to irritate you a bit more.
Hey, Paul, can you just say quickly? We'll put them in the show notes. Go and say it, mate.
Yeah, we'll put them in the show notes.
Nice.
Adam,
hey, it's been good to meet you.
It's been awesome, mate.
Yeah.
Adam, we'll put your stuff in the show notes too, mate.
Don't just put Jared
your Instagram
Frono's photo. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get your Instagram put in there and everything we can find on your Facebook and all the rest of it.
We'll put your mobile number too there, just in case your photography professor wants to get in contact with you.
Yeah, honestly,
the podcast.
Honestly, out to Fredo. Big ups to Fredo and his big teeth.
Definitely.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for coming on.
Honestly, lads, it's been really good, and hope everyone keeps all safe out there. We'll definitely do this again, or keep in touch. Yeah,
100%.
For sure. Definitely. Take it easy, Adam.
Take it easy, boys.
See you, bye.
Bye, mate.
See you later.
Bye. Bye.